Hello, we're the Nostalgia Critics. We watched Doug so you don't have to, and tonight we sat through Suburban Knights. Connor, what is the plot of Suburban Knights?
Suburban Knights stars Doug and the Channel Awesome crew. And Doug gets the team together to search for a gauntlet and a stone, which hold ultimate power. And they walk around the park for a while. They fight on a playground. They're all in cringy costumes. And they fight some Indian guy that looks like a mixture of Eazy-E and a character from The Matrix.
Easy Weeb.
Easy Weeb. That's pretty much it. So Aiden, what did you think of Suburban Knights?
Suburban Knights is more entertaining than Kick-Assia. I'll give it that. It's got some action scenes. They're terrible, but they're there.
Yes, Puppety Doom!
Oh boy. A lot of it is very boring, you know. I think we shit on Kick-Assia some for being boring, but this movie not only has 30 extra minutes, actually more like 40. A lot of this movie is them wandering around the park behind Doug's house. A lot of it. Kind of just doing nothing, like just walking on trails. They have a fight scene on a literal children's playground, which is not only embarrassing, but also not quite riveting filmmaking material.
It's probably the best of the fights, because every other fight was horribly boring.
Yeah, I mean, it was certainly better than the one they did in the drainage ditch, where they just kind of ran around in circles and hit each other.
It was also pretty embarrassing that you could see, like, 40 houses in the background, and you
cars
have to,
driving
yeah,
past
with the cars
constantly.
driving by, you're just cringing by extension or whatever.
Oh yeah, all these people dressed in like fucking Legend of Zelda costumes,
fucking Harry Potter,
David
Peter Pan,
Jew Wario dressed as David Bowie from the Labyrinth,
playing with the fushigi.
and there's a part where he lets James Rolfe out of his pants, and
No, it wasn't James Rolfe. The running joke through the movie is that he had a massive penis, because I guess you could see David Bowie's penis in Labyrinth. I watched it recently, but I didn't notice because I wasn't paying attention. But
yeah,
apparently David Bowie has a big penis in that movie or something. So
It's
Jew Wario exposes himself in public
at a playground. No, it's not a playground. It's in like a drainage ditch. But Film Brain plays a central role in this movie for some reason. He can't act. He's annoying. Mm-hmm. But he has his hair in this one, so good for him.
He has a couple more years of hair.
Doug is still being his classic narcissist self, but we also get to see the likes of other great personalities like Linkara, who sings a song in this one, because of course he does.
Maji, how great was he?
Todd in the Shadows is around, doing not much.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again.
We get to see way too much Lindsay Ellis.
Yeah, I like how in every production that Lindsay Ellis is in, she just looks bored in half the shots in the background. It wasn't nearly as bad as the first movie where she was literally like on her phone in shots and shit.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just how she looks or what, but like there'll be like scenes where everyone's like acting and saying their dialogue, and if Lindsay Ellis isn't specifically saying something in those scenes, she just sits there and looks sad.
The real cringe one is fucking Mars Girl only speaks Japanese in this movie. She doesn't have any
once
lines
she
in
goes
English.
into character,
Yeah.
as the anime character,
Princess Mononoke.
of course.
She spends the whole time speaking Japanese, subtitled Japanese, and it's so embarrassing. And
Most
she had
of
the
the
most
characters are
elaborate
very-
costume. Like, you know, she already had that costume.
Yeah.
That wasn't made for the movie. Doug's Link costume was whipped up in fucking 40
10
minutes before
yeah.
they started shooting.
Ugh.
There's quite a bit of Spoonie. I still like Spoonie. He's the enjoyablest one. I wouldn't quite say enjoyable, but he tries. And no one else is.
Right.
Oh, God. It is a cringe fest. There's a lot of secondhand cringe. There's stuff that baffles me, like where they found some little girl to break up their playground fight. Like,
I don't care what your little D&D friends are doing. This is a public playground, and my little girl wants to play.
I assume that was somebody's wife or one of Doug's friends, because
yeah, it must have been.
there was a surprising amount of women in this movie that weren't part of the core reviewers, which always surprised me.
The backstory plot's really generic. It's just like the easy weeb guy who walks around in a fedora and overcoat with a katana is like looking for the power glove. Oh, God.
And he kills Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah, he just
Well, it was called the Gauntlet, and then the guy changed it to a power glove when he went into
yeah,
the
I
book.
know, that's so cringe. It's so embarrassing to do that. Just like, that's the same thing that
It was like a
Kung
huge...
Fury did. It's Kung
Right.
Fury.
Well, the thing is, like, that power...
Yikes.
It was even cringier, in fairness, when Kung Fury did it, because, like,
yeah.
after AVGN did his, like, power glove video,
Then it became a fucking meme.
it became a meme for people to pretend like the power glove is, like, the invincible gauntlet. Although I think that's, like, it was kind of a riff on the Wizard, but
Yeah.
I think this was a riff on the AVGN episode, and I suspect so was Kung Fury,
Yeah.
which we have a very old review of that came out.
God, I hate that movie.
I don't remember it.
The
but
fucking-
I remember it being shit.
I don't know, man. I don't know. The Mahdi character comes back, and Mahdi's also a sex weirdo,
Oh, yeah.
as half of Channel Awesome tends to be. And
Well, I don't think he's a sex weirdo. I think he's a sexual harasser. I guess yeah, that's pretty bad too.
fair, I guess.
He wasn't a raper like Jew Wario.
It's a little better.
Jew Wario is the only confirmed rapist at Channel Awesome.
But Mahdi's in it a lot. Mahdi's a horrible, annoying actor, and they make him a central character towards the end. And I'm pretty sure To Boldly Flee is mostly about bringing Mahdi back, because Doug wanted to make a Search for Spock knockoff.
Right.
Overall, as you'd expect, it's shot pretty badly in general. The camera quality's up. They don't do anything interesting with it.
Yeah, at least they didn't try to pull like some grand crossover shit where if the people didn't show up, they're not in the movie. They didn't try to like
Phone them in. With,
phone in Guru Larry with his like two megapixel camera or whatever, or
Yeah.
like fucking whoever else couldn't show up. It was just kind of like the only person they really casted in was James with his little like orb character.
You'll do God knows what with that shit.
At least I can give him a reasonable enough pass, like, oh, at least it's a character. I know they wanted
Yeah.
James and he didn't have time or some shit, so that's why
yeah.
that was the cameo, but
What really gets me is the audio. Maybe it's just the YouTube video, but I kind of doubt it.
no, it's not, because you can say what you want, but
I kinda doubt
music's
it.
high quality.
I kind of doubt it because the music is high quality and it seems to be a rip from like the Blu-ray or DVD or whatever.
Right, whoever ripped this did a pretty decent job. Fucking, we gotta get through the tangents. Just say your thought.
Holy shit, this movie sounds terrible 90% of the time. They're filming with the camera audio. They're filming outside, so there are times where the wind is getting in the mic and it sounds fucking horrendous.
See, I think they might have like a boom mic with a fucking, or a shotgun mic with a muffler, but that's the best I'll give them.
Still, there was times where you could hear the wind coming through.
Yeah, it's very poorly mixed too.
It varies in quality because it'll be like when they're upstairs in Doug's house where the early scenes take place, it's all echoey.
All you have to do is just play a stupid game he created. A game that will lead us directly to the gauntlet.
There are parts that sound better for sure, but there are some parts that just sound horrendous, and there's also a little bit of horrible ADR in there, just for good measure.
There's a lot of scenes, like the final scene and like when they're walking around on that trail when cars go by, where you can hear like the sound of like the cars
Oh, yeah.
going by. And it's like, dude, you gotta like How hard would it
Go
be in
film in
like
the forest.
suburban Illinois to just find a forest?
Drive 10 miles out of town and go film on some guy's farm, pay him $100.
Right.
Who fucking knows?
And I know they were like, we're being self-aware when they picked the playground or whatever to film the fight at. And I guess it gave them more like interesting ways to break up the characters and make the fights look better, was the thinking maybe. But, because the fights legitimately was shot, I won't call it a good shot, a well-shot fight scene, but the final fight scene's atrocious because it's just everybody in a straight
It's a
line
clusterfuck.
fighting.
Alright, you schmuck. Face the taste of my blade!
I don't know why Doug didn't say, okay guys, spread out and fight, and then,
It's a clusterfuck.
you know, Rob could go around with the camera and kind of shoot scenes of whoever fighting and people just pretend to fight in the background.
Yeah,
Instead, it's just everybody in this tiny line, and it's, ugh.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Oh.
The movie tries to act self-aware too, but it doesn't really particularly
No.
earn the right to be self-aware, because at times it's incredibly
Well, yeah, it's
self-aware.
When the cinema snob and fucking Mars Girl on the playground and he drops Mars Girl and then he's like, oh, this is silly. Like, saying it's silly doesn't make it less stupid, you know?
Right.
Yeah, this is kind of silly.
It's still stupid, even if you point it out, it doesn't make it funny.
Like, I know he wasn't going dramatic at all, like the whole thing is supposed to be kind of a spoof, but I don't know. It kind of just feels like a glorified, like, nostalgia critic crossover without reviewing anything. So a lot of it's just like,
That's what it is.
I mean, that's what it is, but the movie doesn't try to take itself seriously at all. But there's a lot of things. Like, if you're going to shoot a fight sequence, don't shoot it to be a 35-minute fight sequence where people stand in a boring line punching at each other. And I'm sitting here with my eyes glazing over. And no characters really... Like, the one thing I will give Kick-Assy over this, is the characters they decided to do stuff with actually had something to do.
Yeah,
This
you see,
movie was group of people walk around and everybody has random conversations with each other.
Yeah, that's a pretty fair
Group
point.
of people walk around and have conversations with each other. And then they encounter a villain, they try to fight them or do some sort of stupid joke, and it's stupid. And then they walk on to the next place. And that's this entire fucking movie.
Yeah, I mean, we shat on Kick-Assy, but Doug had a character. Fucking Phaelus had a character. Lindsay Ellis did. Maybe one or two more. And this
Right.
movie, even Doug doesn't get a character. Everyone's just lumped into groups and they all decide things as groups and no one has anything to do. They kind of
It's
just
just like-
wander around the woods.
They're also like, they don't like try to build relationships or anything. The only like meaningful conflict in this movie is Film Brain and the new teenage
Twink Boy?
twink boy are competing to be Doug's favorite and both dress up as Harry Potter. So there's some tension there.
Film Brain is the only character with an arc at all
Oh,
because
shit.
he gets brainwashed into being evil for like 10 minutes and then just unbrainwash him and all the conflict with him is gone.
Right.
It wasn't good conflicts. Don't twist that. It was still just as bad as everything else, but he
Yeah.
almost had something to do.
And then everything else was just like little skits and shit, and a lot of it was just them walking around. And it's just really like nothing happens in this fucking movie. That's the problem. There's a conflict, but nothing happens. I will give this movie this. It's shot a hell of a lot better than Kick-Assy.
True.
And while Kick-Assy is annoying and suffers from similar pitfalls, at least it's an hour and a half, and I feel like conceptually it was a better idea for a movie.
This is an hour and a half of build up for a shitty 20-minute fight scene.
Yeah. And the fight scenes, don't get me wrong, are also bad in Kick-Assy, but they're a little more entertaining than this fucking
Then people
run
hitting each other with sticks and
this vacant
sewer
lot.
drain
Yeah.
in front of a bunch of cars and houses.
Right.
Like weirdos. But anyway, what did you think of the Suburban Knights?
I didn't like it, obviously. I mean, it's fucking 2 hours and 10 minutes. This thing's 20 minutes shorter than Avengers Endgame. It has just about as many characters, and it packs in half the amount of... The plot packs in nothing of substance. And this movie, maybe if it was like a 45-minute Nostalgia Critic special, where it's him and like 4 or 5 of the other reviewers wander through the woods and fight fucking Easy Weeb, it would have been maybe tolerable, but it's just so fucking boring. There's nothing that goes on. And to be honest, I don't know. Like, I don't see what the point of the movie was, other than another crossover, and then the fucking Indian guy dies, so they're gonna do Search for Spock in the next one. It's...
I mean, Spoonie was moderately entertaining. I liked the part where he threw the bird seeds at the villains. That
right, the
almost
LARP,
funny.
the Spoonie LARPing scene was... I got a giggle out of.
True magic! True magic! Well?
Well, what?
That was birdseed!
Yes?
You're supposed to fall down now and raise your hands over your head and run back to the supervisor saying you're dead.
Rest in peace, Spoonie. Did you know Spoonie's brother killed a man?
It's pretty badass.
Spoonie's brother's a cop, and there was an illegal immigrant, and Spoonie's brother fucking brained him in his car.
I don't really have much more to say than we really covered. It just kind of seems like an excuse for Doug to do LARP around for 2.5 hours on camera. Like I said, it was shot better, but pretty much everything I would say is worse than Kick-Assia otherwise.
Are you excited for To Boldly Flee? Estimated runtime 4 hours.
That's the Linkara movie?
No, that's the next Doug movie. Atop the Fourth Wall's only a merciful 2.5 hours.
Right.
They're important to the lore.
Oh yeah.
Nostalgia Critic's a very
Nostalgia
lore-heavy
Critic is in
series.
character for the first 2 minutes of both movies, and then he just becomes a different character.
Nostalgia Critic is a very lore-heavy series, Connor. Some people say its lore rivals that of Dark Souls.
Dude, it actually is a fucking lore-heavy series because he sneaks his lore into
Well, he sneaks all these
hundreds of
characters in,
fucking.
too.
He's got lore in the Linkara web series, the fucking
Yeah, I mean,
Jew Wario web series. So Aiden, would you recommend Suburban Knights?
no, would you?
No.
You know, we all choose our fate.
No, I have not chose this fate. You picked Suburban Knights.
Oh, Maya did.
No, she didn't.
Yeah, she did. She clicked on, she grabs the mousey with the Suburban Knights.
What was the other toy?
The Dark Knight?
No, what were the 2 toys?
Oh, it was that mouse, that one was the Dark Knight, and that stinky gray one was Suburban Knights.
Of course he's gonna win, dude.
You think the stinky gray one's gonna win over the one that has a rattle in it? I shook them both in her face. She knew what she was doing.
It's probably the most autistic thing you've ever said. I've heard you say a lot of autistic things. Don't get it twisted.
See, this is how you get rid of smoke. You gotta do propeller arms.
This is now the most autistic. Over for Jaden in the last comment.